Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of April 2019. And so yeah, been another interesting month. I actually got around to a couple of places, a couple of conventions, picked up some cool stuff there. Also got out to Europe very briefly, got some stuff there, and then we got a couple of, obviously, some surprises here. And one thing that is, to me anyway, really awesome. I can't wait to show it to you guys. But let's just start off at the beginning. So, first thing I got actually is it was one of the remnants of my former Gamers Club Unlocked membership over at Best Buy. For those who still have it, lucky you. And for those who never had it, what the basic idea was, Best Buy is an American store that offered a program called Gamers Club Unlocked. If you paid $30, you were good for 2 years. And what you get from that is 20% off of all video games. It was awesome. But unfortunately it no longer exists. At least they don't allow you to still have it. If you have an old membership, you can still use it. But before my membership expired, I put a whole bunch of stuff on pre-order that I was even vaguely interested in, giving myself the option to cancel later, but that way you'd still get the 20% off. So the first thing I got actually was Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch. Cool thing about this, at least from a pickup standpoint, yes, I got the 20% off, but I also happened to be in Portland, Oregon at the time I decided to pick it up, which meant Portland, Oregon, or Oregon in general, is a state that doesn't have sales tax, so I didn't have to pay sales tax on it. So that was a nice little additional discount on top of it. So actually my copy's still sealed. I haven't even had time to really look at it, but yes, I have it now, so yippee. Now, the reason I was out in Portland, Oregon, I was actually going up to Cowlitz, Washington, and the reason I was doing that was to attend a convention run by John Hancock. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him, YouTuber. The majority of the Metal Jesus Rock crew ends up going to that convention as guests. This year, Kelsey and Kinsey weren't able to make it, but the rest of them all did. And I went up there to attend the convention and be a guest as well and help out. And I thought I owed John. I felt like the dude had done me a solid a while back, and I was like, if I can help you at all, I want to do it. And so, I spent some miles, and I just went out there on my own just to help and make the convention better, or hopefully make it better. So that was cool. So I didn't really expect to get anything. I did get one special thing that I'll show you towards the end of the video that I got there. But the only other stuff I got is just kind of little oddball items. John Riggs, my buddy from the crew, obviously gave me a little sticker. And then the other thing is a guy named Josh just came up to me. He was super excited to meet me. Thank you for that. And he just handed me a stack of Wii U games. And he was like, yeah, I know you're going for a full Wii U set, so I thought I could help out. And he's like, I honestly didn't know if I had any of these games, but it turns out I had all of them. So thank you, Josh. But still, I've got them here. I kept them sealed, and they're safe. They're all like, they're all in good shape. And it was just really cool of him. I tried to turn him down. I was like, because you don't have to do that. Nobody has to do stuff like that. But he was still very insistent. So thank you, Josh. He got me the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Adventure Time, Finn and Jake Investigations, Ben 10 Omniverse 2, and Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes. All of these were Walmart clearance, I can tell, because they had all the stickers on them, so he didn't really spend much money, which is good. If you're gonna get me stuff, don't spend a bunch of money. Actually, the one of these to keep an eye on is probably this one, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because this iteration of Spider-Man is like gone forever. Like, Sony's never bringing that back. This game will never be re-released. I think I heard that this had actually been pulled from various services, so this game will only exist in physical format, most likely, in the future. So that's pretty cool. So either way, still, thank you. It's just nice to have more stuff for the Wii U, even though I technically had these already. These are still, it's cool. Thank you very much, Josh. But again, you don't ever have to do that. So that was, other than the special pickup, which we'll get to towards the end of the video, that was really all I got in Cowlitz. But it was a great convention, and I hope I get to go back next year. Another convention I did had absolutely nothing to do with video games, but I still got to go. I went to Star Wars Celebration, which was actually here in Chicago, which was awesome. So I got to attend that. I had a 5-day badge there, and it wasn't even that far from me, so I was able to like go every single day very easily. But I'm not, here's the thing, as much as I love Star Wars, and I don't really collect stuff for it very often. In fact, like what I got, I'm wearing this shirt, which is an awesome shirt. I hope you guys can see it. It's like a cool, like Japanese Darth Vader type of shirt. That was pretty much it as far as stuff I picked up, was a couple of t-shirts. And the only other thing was ANA, which is a Japanese airlines, has some Star Wars planes, like for real, in real life, that actually fly around. And they were there with their booth, and they just were giving away a couple of freebies, so I grabbed some stuff. I got a free pen set with each of those 3 planes on it, and then just this random badge. It's like they call it a boarding pass, but it's not really. It's just got a bunch of images and artwork from the R2-D2 plane and stuff like that, and it's got this little plastic card. Has no actual purpose, but I don't know. That was just kind of neat. But yeah, had nothing to do with video games. But sticking with that theme, I don't know if this was tied to the convention or what this was, but the new Star Wars Battlefront 2, the one by EA, the one that I have no real interest in or had no real interest in, had a random price drop. To Best Buy was selling it for $13. Which is not bad, but I actually have a friend who still has Gamers Club unlocked, and he allows me to use his account, so I actually got it for 10. Here it is. Now, this was not a game I had any intention of ever owning. Like, seriously, I did not care, because it's mostly online content, as I'm sure a lot of you know, and that doesn't interest me. I only want single-player, offline stuff, primarily. And I didn't even know this game had a single-player mode until I was hanging out with my buddy Kyle, and he told me about it. He was like, you should try it. And he'd put on the PS4 version, and I played it for a little bit, and I was like, this is all right. It's got the canon explanation of what happens after Return of the Jedi, like immediately after, like within the first year, and then like a cool little follow-up right before Force Awakens starts. So I thought I would pick it up at some point if it was cheap enough, and this is when that time hit. I got through the entire campaign in like 3 hours. It is not long. So $10 was about right, because I'm realistically not ever gonna play this again. I beat it all the way through because that's all I cared about was the story mode, which is not long. I hated the space controls in this, like hated it. And then the actual like combat stuff I really didn't enjoy either. I kept finding myself wanting to just watch the cutscenes, which is never a good sign. So I almost wrote out a tweet about this, like I just saying like, I just finished Battlefront 2. Please, Disney, give the Star Wars license to someone that is not named EA. I didn't hate it. Don't get the wrong idea. The story was competent, but that's all I wanted it for. Now, I'm sure people are like, dude, that's not what that game is. It's an online game, and that's the mechanic. That's what you're supposed to judge it based on, and that's fair. But you need to understand that's not what I care about. So to me, that's not that important. Now, that doesn't mean you can't love it for those reasons. Certainly you can, and that's why our opinions might vary. But for me, I got $10 worth of entertainment out of it, and I'm satisfied on that basis. So we'll just move on from there. Randomly, while I was in that Best Buy picking that up, I wanted to pick this up. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, which I'm sure is a game a lot of you guys know. Now that it's on Xbox One, I wanted to pick it up there, and it was on sale too. Plus, I would still get the Gamers Club unlocked, so I think I got this for only 20 bucks. I got this mostly to just kind of see what it would end up looking like, because this is an amazingly beautiful game. And I wanted to see what it would turn out like on the Xbox One X, which I have not really had time to tinker with. But yeah, I got that, so that's why I picked that up. And also for the Xbox One, this was sent to me. This is compliments of 2K, who just mailed this to me. Borderlands Game of the Year Edition, so thank you to them for that. If you are unaware, they re-released this, obviously, with all sorts of 4K asset updates and all that, especially on the Xbox One X, but they also updated, digitally at least, the previous collection, the Handsome collection that included the prequel and 2. If you have that, there's a free update that gives you the same upgrade assets. So I thought that was cool that they did the free update, at least, on those. And yeah, thank you again to 2K for hooking me up with that. Now, I also was in Germany very briefly. I'm not going to go into this, but my reason for being there got a little messed up, but I still ended up going there for just a few days. And so what I decided to do is take advantage of that. I went into, the area I was in was very limited in what I could do. And it was cost prohibitive to like go in. I was outside of Munich, but it was cost prohibitive for me to go into Munich proper. So all I could do is stay in the basic area I was in, which meant my options on like, if I'm gonna go try to check out a store or something, was like comically limited. In fact, the only thing that was around me was a single store called Saturn. Now Saturn is like Best Buy type of equivalency, or MediaMarkt is another European one, but this is what, in this case, it was Saturn. And so that was the only thing I had the option of doing. So I decided to go in and just kind of comb through stuff, looking, for PAL exclusives, but at the same time, PS4 and Switch especially have gone ape shit when it comes to the European exclusives, any exclusives in general. I'm sorry, but unless you are an absolute diehard for PS4 and Switch, the whole concept of getting full sets for those consoles is out the door. You have to be a serious, diehard badass who wants to spend that kind of cash, because the number of games out there is astronomical, especially because of all the limited run games type of companies that are out there. And it's not made any easier by the fact that, from my perspective, I go over there and I look in this store and I look in all these games and I look into some of them specifically, and some of these games are just as limited and just as rare as something that might come out at limited run games or special reserve games or, you know what I'm talking about, all those companies. But unlike those that have some sort of media blast behind them, a lot of these are focused on just one country and a very small retailer and are never even really heard of. So one such example, I'm taking all these photos of these various games and I'm sending it to a couple of buddies of mine, ones who I know collect a lot of Switch stuff and ones I know who collect a lot of PlayStation 4 stuff. And, a lot of them are stunned by how many games there are. I think I had actually photographed 100 plus different games that were completely exclusive, at least to Europe, some of which are very exclusive to just Germany. Germany and Austria get a lot of shared exclusives that never leave those two countries. So I sent some images off, and here's, ultimately, a buddy of mine was like, make sure you pick this one up, don't mess up. So this is a game called Fimble for the Nintendo Switch. It has something to do with Viking lore and stuff like that. This one is, as I understand it, exclusive to Germany. I ended up picking it for Switch and for PS4, only because everyone I was talking to is like, I've never heard of this thing. There's a listing for it on Amazon Germany, and that seems to be about it, at least from a outside of German perspective. But finding a copy in the wild will probably be unrealistic at a very soon date, because how many copies of this realistically could exist? And that's not to say everybody go out and buy this, because this is going to be the one to own, because realistically it won't. It's a gamble, you never really know. But at the same time, this is probably never going to get any sort of wider release, so you just never know. And that's kind of the risk you take with certain stuff like that. Am I excited to play this? No, I don't even really know what it is. Don't really care. But every super collector I'm talking to was like, make sure you pick that one up. Because trust me, there was a ton of different games there where I was like, this looks vaguely interesting, but I'm not going to pull the trigger, because I've kind of learned with PS4 and Switch especially, the regional exclusivity in a lot of instances can be very, very temporary, especially if it's somebody like Soy Desco. But certain companies like Wild River is the guys who did this, that's realistically never leaving. But does that matter? Will anybody care down the road? Super collectors probably will. But yeah, so whatever. Point is, I got that. And the only other one I got from them was this, and it was only because I sent this game off to my buddy Kyle, because he's a PS4 super collector, as well as Radical Reggie, because he's the only other PS4 super collector I know. And the two of them looked at it and were like, what the hell is that? Because they looked all over the internet and they only could find one stock photo somewhere in really low resolution, to the point where they weren't even sure the game was real. So when he was that stunned that I found something like this, he said, I have to have that. So I bought 2 copies, one of which I've already sent off to him. This is Season Match HD 1+2. Because I'm sure we all remember that glorious collection of Season Match. But apparently this is exclusive to Germany, published by Markt Technik, which is a company I'd heard of, because they're like a little rainbow, kind of like LJN back in the day, because all their games are a rainbow stamp of crap. But yeah, this is, I think it's basically like a Bejeweled type of game. And this is like a collection of them. But yeah, I looked it up myself, and I think I found the same one Google image that was out there. And Saturn had 2 copies in stock, so I got one, and Kyle ended up with the other. But this is the type of weird stuff that ends up possibly being super valuable down the line. While it's worthless now, it's the impossible trick of finding it first, holding on to it, and then finding out later there's some super collector that knows about it and is trying to get it. Now, that implies reselling. I don't resell. I don't care about any of that. I more like to have stuff just because it's cool and to preserve it and stuff like that. But so that's my motivation. But yeah, possible future rare ass game right here. Season Match HD 1+2. I don't know. But anyway, so those were my German video game pickup. Actually, no, I take it back. There was one more. Far Cry 3 Classic Edition. This was the only one going into Germany I knew I was definitely looking for. So Far Cry 3, obviously we've had many iterations of. In fact, if you bought, I don't remember which game it was, one of them included Far Cry, in the States anyway, included this game digitally for free if you owned it. I think it was like Assassin's Creed Origins, or maybe it was Far Cry 5, duh, Far Cry 5. If you bought Far Cry 5 in the States, you got access to this game digitally, whereas obviously in Europe, it couldn't have worked that way. It wouldn't make much sense to. So they did a physical edition over there. But you guys know me, I wanted a physical edition of the game, even though I didn't necessarily need it for that reason. This is a pretty cool game, by the way. But yeah, I decided to pick it up since it was there. It was actually their last copy, and it was on clearance too, because it must have been there for a while, so happy about that one. The other thing I got from them, which is not something I traditionally show in these videos, but in this case, I made an exception. I do buy Blu-rays from time to time. I collect movies and stuff like that and TV shows. And Germany is a great place to get a lot of Blu-rays because there's a lot of releases that come out there that for some reason just never really go anywhere else. Or they get really wide releases there. While they might still come out in other countries, they can end up being cheaper in Germany for different reasons. So there was a bunch of stuff I'd seen that I was just like, wow, that got a Blu-ray release here, even though I don't necessarily need to own it, like Hot Shots or whatever, like the Charlie Sheen movie. And then a bunch of like older movies where you're just like, this is like a Roseanne Barr movie that nobody could possibly remember, and for some reason it got a Blu-ray release in Germany. You know, stuff like that where you're just like, that's obscure, why would that get that? But I didn't pick that stuff up. What I got here was one that I was kind of surprised to find out hadn't got a Blu-ray release here. Borat. Cultural Learnings of America from Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan, pretty sure is the name. Yeah, well, it's in German, so I can't tell. But anyway, yes, I picked this up there. This was like €5. This is like nothing. So I was pretty happy to get that. This did come out in other countries, but it was easy to get in Germany. This was never released in the US for whatever reason. So I got that. And then the other thing I got, I didn't even open them yet. So a lot of the Marvel TV shows that existed on both television and Netflix, while they have had Blu-ray releases in the States, they're prohibitively expensive for odd reasons. Like because of Netflix exclusivity, as I'm guessing there's some sort of like, all right, if you're gonna buy the Blu-ray version, like it's gonna cost you because we need to get our share. Or in the case of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, that was an Amazon exclusive in the US, so it's oddly uncommon. None of these issues existed in Europe, especially in Germany, because there it's just like a normal release. So I ended up getting a couple. I got Jessica Jones Season 1, and I also got Agent Carter, the complete series. So it took a little translation to be sure that that's actually what this was and wasn't just like 2 seasons. The other thing though was, so to my fellow Americans, if you're not aware, you do not have to pay most European sales taxes, ironically, when you're not in Europe. So what I mean by that is, so I'm sitting there in Saturn looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, man, you know, like I wanted Daredevil, right? I wanted Daredevil Season 1 and 2, and I wanted, I don't even remember what else I wanted, but I actually, no, I do, because they're right here. I wanted some games as well. And I was like, man, you know, like I'd love to have these. I'm just gonna check Amazon Germany just out of, you know, curiosity's sake. But in a lot of cases, Amazon Germany will have it and it will cost less than the store. Then you don't have to pay the sales tax on it. You do have to pay shipping, but more often than not, you still come out ahead. So I'm sitting there, like that was blowing my mind. Like I'm sitting there in Germany, in a store, and it's gonna cost me less money for me to order it on my phone, have it shipped from this country over to my place directly. That will cost less than me just grabbing it here today. Economics. But whatever. The ones I actually bought, that wasn't the case, but there was some, or some items in particular where I was like, all right. So I don't have them yet, but that's the other downside, is especially shipping from over there, it can take a lot longer. Daredevil Seasons 1 and 2 will be on their way. But right before making this video, these showed up, fortunately. This one I got because you guys know me, I fly a lot. Airport Simulator 2019. It's straight up set, it's all in German on the back, except for one part that just says playable in English. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna actually like this game, but the idea that this was a thing, I wanted to check it out. The Germans have a shit ton of these like something simulator games. Like it's almost out of control. And there's tons of them that are exclusive to Germany and Austria. But yeah, I decided to check that out just out of morbid curiosity because it wasn't that expensive, especially going through Amazon. And the two things you can probably imagine that I really wanted that I was not able to find, well, I was able to find one of them in Germany, but I didn't end up picking it up, was the German release of Shenmue 1 and 2 for the PS4 and Xbox One. I ended up finding the PS4 version in store at Saturn, and it was like 40 euros, but online it was like 15. And that's shipped. And it was like, why? Why would you do it that way? Like, I'm willing to hand you money in your own country. Why would you do that? It's just a coincidence, I'm sure, to an extent. But yeah, so now I got those. You're probably wondering, like, well, what the hell is the difference? Well, aside from the fact that the back is all in German, the only other difference to this is just the fact that the rating system is different. So I, obviously, super fan of Shenmue. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. But I have, like, every iteration of this game's re-release. German version now. I had the UK version, which is, I believe, the same as the majority of throughout all of Europe. I have the French Super Collector's Edition, which would include, therefore, the French version. I don't think there's any other minor European versions. I could be wrong about that. If you're out there and you're like, hey man, there's a version in Italy where the entire box is in Italian and has a different logo on it or something, tell me. I have the Japanese version, the Japanese Collector's Edition, the American Edition, the Australian edition, the Korean edition, and the Hong Kong edition. I don't know if there's any others, but if that's the case, tell me. But yeah, so happy to add the German ones to my set there. And then this one was super exciting. I was really glad to get this, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know. Axiom Verge for the Wii U. Yes, we acknowledged earlier that the Wii U, obviously going for the full set. This one, as most people would predict, would probably be one of the harder ones to find eventually. The story with this game is, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of this game, but the limited edition Wii U version came through Limited Run Games, as we mentioned before. This is their one and only Wii U release. The story with this, to an extent, this is the abridged version, is they were obviously, Axiom Verge was supposed to be on the Wii U at some point. In fact, it had been slated, I believe it was for like a January 2018 release in Europe only. Most specifically, I think just the UK, not even all of Europe. And then through Limited Run Games, it somehow made its way through that whole process. And they had all sorts of issues with Badland Games. They had issues with Nintendo, to the point where I've been told that they ordered a whole stack of these and Nintendo just sent them a spindle of discs. And they were like, what the hell do we do with this? So anyway, long story short, they went through all this stuff. They finally got the release out. And then by the time they got it out, they changed a bunch of their rules, because I've looked at Limited Run Game stuff before, and typically you're like allowed to only have like 1 or 2 copies of a game. In this case, they didn't put a cap on it. They just wanted these things gone. They lost a bunch of money on this release. But yeah, I remember sitting there on the phone. I was with my buddy Jesse. We were driving, and we both wanted copies of this game. And I was able to order for both of us, so I have his copy. He'll get it very soon. But yeah, so Axiom Verge is safe, secured. I've got it. This is potentially the last Wii U game. The only thing I could see coming out after this, maybe, would be the next Just Dance game, maybe Just Dance 2020, and that's a big what if. But otherwise, this is probably the last Wii U game. So very cool to have that, because that would have been a bitch and a half to find later. So moving on, we have some other items here. Now you'll see there's this package. We're gonna start with that. This actually kind of goes, this comes from a buddy, well not, I guess it's unfair to call him a buddy, but thank you, you did me a solid, my friend. This comes from a guy named Rob, Rob Glass. Now he actually went to Magic Monaco back in, I believe it was March of this year. Now Magic Monaco is a gaming convention in Monaco, where This year, Shenmue III was there, and there was a bunch of stuff on display. And I could have possibly gone, but I had other conflicting issues, and I was just not able to attend. Now, because of that, there was a piece of merchandise that came out there that I really wanted, but I was not able to get. Now, Rob was actually attending, and he was cool enough to grab one for me, and I paid him for it. You know, it's stupidly expensive. I had a bunch of people look into this, and it turns out this is, you know, just the stupid price of this thing. The first thing here is he just threw in a bonus item, which was not what I didn't ask him for this. He just did this on his own. He threw in this bag. There you go. Just a cool bag from the convention. So thank you, Rob, for doing that. But the thing that I had wanted was this. This is the Shenmue III official shirt of the convention. Now on the front you see a black shirt that says Magic, but on the back you see Ryo Hazuki. So this was a stupidly expensive t-shirt. Like stupidly expensive. And it was just Rob just paying retail, and I just paid him back. And I know that because I had asked other people who were going, and they were like, yeah, it's just a stupidly expensive shirt. Now that said, it's a cool design. You know, there's definitely better shirts in the world. Hell, I'm wearing one. But I wasn't gonna pass on the first official piece of Shenmue III merchandise. Like I wasn't, there's no way. Like I'm too much of I mean, come on, like I'm sitting here with 2 additional copies of the re-release. Like it was gonna happen, you know what I mean? So Rob, seriously, dude, thank you very much for facilitating that. I really appreciate it. A couple other things, some cool ass items. First up here, now you guys, you probably heard me mention this company in the past. There's a company called GG Retro Gaming. I'll have a link in the description. It's basically an online store offering, you know, game sales, obviously sales of games, but also services like disc resurfacing and things like that. There's, again, link in the description. You can actually use a coupon code there if you want. You can get a nice percentage off of your order. He was cool enough to send me something pretty odd, but I thought it was neat. This is a GameCube preview Japanese demo disc of Biohazard 4 or Resident Evil 4. Yeah, just, that was cool. Like, I don't know if I even have any other GameCube demo discs, but yeah, this one I've got now. Thank you. And that's very cool of you, so thank you very much. So again, guys, do me a solid, just, you know, do him a solid because he was cool enough to just send this my way. Check out the link, take a look at it, see if you find anything interesting. If not, no biggie, but just take a look. But that's, thank you. Thank you to GG Retro Gaming. Now, 2 more items. The first one up is the other oddball item from Cowlitz at that convention. Now, this was my first time ever at this convention, so I didn't really know that they did this, but apparently Cowlitz has a history of coming up with some sort of exclusive game for the convention. Now, that's usually some sort of reproduction card or something of that nature. It's not like somebody programs a game specifically for it, at least to my knowledge. And this year, what they did was they made 10 copies, just 10, of this. This is Linkle Liver Story. Now, this was a Sega Saturn game that came out in Japan. And for the purposes of the convention, they decided to do a North American style artwork. Sega Saturn Shiro did this. And this is a full translated edition of the game, fan translated edition that they took all the Japanese out, put it in English and everything, and then put it on discs and then put it in cases. Now, it even says up here that specifically Cowlitz Gamers for Kids edition, and I have number 9 out of 10. There's only 10 copies. I know Radical Reggie ended up with one of them as well. And then inside it has like a full manual and everything, and it has this breakdown about like what it is and just some information about it. And then it's, you know, here on a disc. Now, the thing about this disc though, is this is a CDR. It's got a nice label on it and stuff, but ultimately it's a CDR. And the only way it'll actually run is if you have a modded Saturn, or if you have the ability to do the swap trick thing, which I have a modded Saturn. So still with Saturn, we are not at the point where you can just start pressing your own games and everything, at least, although I think Josh Brod's working on that one. But yeah, the fact that that exists, that's like that, I thought that was really neat. And so I was all about picking that up because that's just such a cool oddball item. You know, and I haven't even decided, like, do I put it in with the actual Saturn games? Do I let it go into its own section? I don't know, but I still think that's really neat. So those guys over there at the Sega Saturn, Shiro, like the Saturn groups and all that stuff, the guys who are responsible for all that, you guys are doing a badass job. You guys are really good. So that's super cool. And now, the last thing on this list. It's funny, I tweeted about this on April 1st, because that was the day I got this thing. So because of the nature of that day, everybody thought I was kidding. but I wasn't. What I said was something to the effect of like, I just got the last Dreamcast game I need, which was not quite accurate because there's always going to be new ones, hopefully. And then there's this one other ghost out there that maybe one day we'll tackle. But this one game had eluded me since I've been collecting Dreamcast. Like going all the way back to when I first heard about it, which was, I don't know, 2006, maybe even before that. There is a very odd release that I never had the chance to own until recently. Well, that's not entirely true, but I'll show you. And you're going to laugh at first, but there's a good story behind it. This is the Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas for the Sega Dreamcast. Yes, it's fine to mock me. No, seriously. So the story with this game is, you can see this is a white label disc. Now, if you're not familiar with what a white label disc is, in Europe, the way Sega handled media is for magazines and news outlets and stuff, they would publish the game on these discs and they would send them out to early reviewers. They were the final complete version of the game, but rather than have all the artwork and all that stuff, they just sent them out like this. In fact, Sega of Europe still does this because I have like a PS4 promo copy of Shenmue 1 and 2 collection, as well as Yakuza Kiwami 2 that the Sega was cool enough to give me. They still do that same basic model, and they did it for the Dreamcast. So they sent this out to reviewers. Problem is the game was canceled. So what that means is these copies, these review copies, of which I even asked, people at Sega, like, do you have any record of how many of those were ever produced? And he's like, I don't think we would have the official numbers of that sitting around anywhere, but he's like, I would guess it couldn't be more than 100. They don't usually do more than that. So max it out, let's say, at 100 copies ever of this. Most of which, if not all, sent to quote unquote like reviewers, of the time, magazines and stuff. This game is terrible, like absolute garbage, and ultimately released on the PlayStation 2 as well. So how many of these games or copies of this game are still in existence? Hard to say, but I have one now. I saw one of these for sale maybe in 2008, eBay Germany at the time. And the guy wanted like $2,000. It was never sold, as far as I know. It only went up a couple of times and then never sold. What happened here is I was on a Facebook group and a guy said he had a copy, he showed it, and he was only asking, it was like an odd number, like something like 200 euros, something 221, something oddly specific. And I just decided to do it. Like, that was gonna hurt financially, but I was like, dude, I'm never gonna get another chance on that, especially with such an odd entry into the Dreamcast library. Yeah, no, and I'm really happy to have it. Like, seriously, like it's such an odd weight lifted because I've had this like complete Dreamcast set forever, and it has every official release, but this one is such an interesting asterisk. Because it's like, it's official, it was published by Sega, it was put on a GD-ROM, it went through the entire process except for the very end, which is it was never actually shipped to stores. So this was the only version, you know what I'm saying? And I have other white labels, like a couple. I've got the Shenmue ones, and a couple others, like some random ones I've encountered over the years, like Surf Rocket Racer and stuff like that, or whatever that game is. But this is by far the most valuable one because of the unique story behind it. And don't get the wrong idea. Like, this game is playable. Like, it's out there. Like, it's been leaked on the internet over the years. Like, no problem. But to have the actual GD-ROM to me is just really cool. So. Yeah, I'm very. This is like one of those, like, if you'd asked me like maybe the top 10 like random items that you're looking for your entire collection, that would have been pretty high on the list just because of the nature of what it is. Now there is another, like Yoda said to Kenobi, no, there is another. There is one other super rare Dreamcast release that I'm looking for. It's not quite as unique in that sense. It has its own story, but save that tale for another day if I ever get that particular release. But yeah, so I think, yeah, good, successful haul here. Very happy about that. Thank you again to Rob for hooking me up with the shirt as well as the bag, of course. GG Retro Gaming, please guys take a look at them. Cowlitz, the whole Cowlitz convention was awesome. Always great to hang out with the Metal Jesus crew. And yeah, again, as well as 2K. That was really cool of you guys to do. And Josh, thank you, Josh. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all later.